Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Signal Fire Radio, Season 3, Episode 3. If you watched our episode last week, you might think for a moment that the co-host or the host was replaced. I am suddenly beardless for the first time in about 4 years, and my wife, Brandon, said I look about 10 years younger. Do you concur with her?
I agree.
Yeah?
I agree. I think that you look younger, you look more vibrant.
Oh, thank you.
You look, you look optimistic, and we need that because
We need some hope.
we need some hope.
We need some hope. We need to be the change that we wish to see, right?
And I love to see it in your blue eyes. I can see the optimism.
Matt, do you also feel the same way about my 10-year younger face? Because I feel like, you and I, we closed the gap. When we would meet with people, they'd be like, maybe Matt's a little bit older, maybe they're right around the same age. But you took umbrage in our meeting with our friends from Hidden Ships when I said that I was still under 40. Does this change now our interpersonal relationship of me looking 10 years your senior, or your prior at least?
No.
None at all whatsoever?
No.
In a podcast, you're paid to give your opinion, not just use...
I mean, in kindergarten, they called me old man hands, so I've been told I'm the old guy my whole life, so...
I've got a couple jokes, but I'm going to
When my wife met me, she thought I was 21, and she thought I was, like, in my mid-30s.
So did you ever get carded?
I mean, yeah, just like normal.
Yeah.
But I also was never like, hey, guys, you want me to buy you some beer? Because they'll think I was never into that. I was always too scared.
Did anybody ever ask you to buy beer for him, just off the street? No? Bill Kawczynski, our first guest that we're going to bring in, has anybody ever asked you to purchase a beer for them? Just a random guy in a gas station?
All the time.
You have that trusting face on you.
Well, I grew up in the beer state. So when I was 18, beer was legal as an adult. So, yeah.
Bill, before we introduce Rob, this is the second opportunity that we've had you on Signal Fire Radio. However, for those of you that have been watching Signal Fire, listening, following along for the last 3 years, you'll probably be going, I've never listened to an episode with Bill Kawczynski on it. And that was because we had no frickin' idea, Brandon, of what we were doing back then. And so the whole episode got lost. I don't remember what the technical issue was.
I believe it was an Army guy that was
leading. It was an Army guy by the name of Evan Anderson.
That's correct.
Who forgot to hit record. TK and
good.
Joe.
It's great to be back.
Yeah, TK and Joe left us in the recording booth by ourselves on a Saturday and was like, yeah, you just gonna do this, and this. And what can go wrong will go wrong in the world of comms, as I'm sure you're well aware.
Always
Cooley.
does.
Yeah.
And by the way, you look very resilient, because I think that's going to be our topic today. So you are much younger and resilient in the face.
You hear that, Matt?
I'm going to go with that.
I thought the beard made me look like a little tougher. I wore the beard when I so actually I got out of the Marines and then I stopped shaving because I could, but also I felt like it aged me a little bit, so I had that kind of imposter syndrome when I was, going to the first couple of jobs and whatnot, where I was like, oh no, I need to look a little older, like I have a little bit more experience. And so it only took me 14 years then to do away with it and finally feel settled in my own skin.
So are you done with it?
I'm done with it for now.
Forever?
Yeah. My kids love it. The girls, they were freaked out at first.
And it's not gray either.
No.
Yeah, so as the guy with gray hair, I never had a problem buying beer.
No.
I never got carded, and I bought a lot of beer for a lot of people over the years.
Where are you from originally, Rob?
So I'm a mutt. I'm from all over, but 4 years really in the Northeast, New Jersey, Massachusetts kind of area.
Yeah. And you've been in Wilmington now for...
On and off for about 15 years.
Yeah. And I'm glad we finally have you as a guest, too, as well, Rob, because you are, I believe, Matt, correct me, the official Signal Fire Radio archives, the first gentleman or gentle lady with a star.
General grade.
Yeah. General grade, for our first general grade guest. So we've broken glass ceilings by having you on today.
It's wonderful to be here.
We want to be more diverse, so we're bringing in, stars.
Yeah.
So
because I always lead with that. I always lead with. I'm a general.
Well, it's right there on your collar.
Well, you got to do that because if you can't anybody listen to you without a general, then you probably shouldn't be talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Shouldn't be talking.
Give a little bit of your background, Rob. Just set the stage of kind of where you got started, your military career, and then right now you're a small business owner, entrepreneur in town. But you have your fingers in a ton of things, which is one of the things we're going to talk about with you and Bill today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I went to West Point a couple of years ago because my dad came downstairs around Halloween of my senior year in high school and said he started a company with my college fund. I said, great, what does that mean? It means we don't have any money to send you to school, so I'm out of here. So I had nowhere to go, so I had to go find some scholarships. And my high school history teacher, who had a son at West Point, had been trying to get me to watch the video about West Point. I said, now it's time to do that. So I went, saw it, applied early, got accepted before Christmas on the academic side, and then had to go off and get a congressman to endorse me. Well, I had to borrow a jacket. I mean, I was not the right person to go to West Point, but I did. I went to my first interview, didn't know what I was doing, failed that miserably, and got a no. And then went to the second one. I said, okay, now I got a jacket. I know how to play this game, and got accepted and went off to West Point. So that was great. Then I went to Hawaii for a couple of years. I was an artillery officer, which was great. And then, after the first Gulf War, the Army was shrinking up to the point where it really wasn't a part of something I wanted to stay long term. So I got out about 4 or 5 years. I said, let me try something else, but then immediately missed it. And then about 6 months after I left the active duty, came right back into the Army Reserves and have been in the Army Reserves ever since, which was great because it allowed me to be in 2 places at one time.
Yeah.
One full-time career going on the civilian side, one going in the military. And it's hard. So, most of our military leaders understand the active duty side of it. That somebody gets paid every 2 weeks, has a base with a hospital, has full-time support. The Army Reserve and National Guardsmen out there in all components, that's not their life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the ones who make decisions about that are the full-time folks or the SESs, the civilians that just took their uniform off and then got a paycheck every 2 weeks. So they don't truly understand what it's like to be on small-town Main Street. And that's a hard place, especially when you're trying to manage a military career in concurrence with a family, going to school, getting a job, little things like that called life. And it's hard when you're trying to be in both parts. So I did that, and then we sold that company. So I went to the active duty, came back. My dad asked me to come help him. I did it. We grew it, and then we sold it to one of our...
With the company that you started with your
He
college
did.
fund,
So
right? Okay,
that
good.
that was fortuitous.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I signed a bunch of non-compete clauses. My golf game couldn't get any worse, so I went off and got my MBA at Carolina. I literally was the guy who drove the application up the road 3 minutes before the closure of the application. I threw it across the table. They looked at it and said, we'll take you because you're the last guy. So an MBA at Carolina was great. And then went to Deloitte Consulting. So I used some of my military career. I still had a clearance. So I was one of the few folks in Deloitte that could be on both sides of the fence, right? The dark side and the opposite side. So a lot of work in pharma biotech, which is what we did in our company. And then a lot on the DoD side. And then was hired by one of my clients, which was Philips Medical Systems, and then helped manage and run their venture fund. So I was a corporate venture capitalist for about a decade with them, really in clinical informatics, patient monitoring devices, and our book of business was truly international. I wasn't U.S. or Western Europe. I was everybody else, Brazil, India, China, those kind of places.
The emerging markets.
Back then, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So we were doing telemedicine at the edge before telemedicine was cool. And then did that for about 10 years. Problem was I did a couple of deployments in there, and Philips really didn't appreciate that. So while there's laws called USARA and some other things, the reality is the Guardsmen and Reserve have a hard time not being right-sized, especially in larger businesses. And then it's hard for Joe's mechanic shop that's got 4 mechanics and 2 of them are in the Guard and Reserve. They have no confidence when they're going to be able to go. So the company, the shop can kind of manage it. So it's a hard spot. So then I came down here. And then went into sin entrepreneurship, so some bakeries and beer and wine stores, which is absolutely a great place to be. Then got sent away for a couple times after that with the Army. Finished up as the Army Reserve Chief of Staff, 2020 and 21, right when COVID started. And then now I'm back in the kind of startup world. So made some angel investments with some really interesting startup companies here in town. And then looking at some really fun opportunities going forward in that space. So it's me going back into that world.
Anything that you can talk about?
So a lot of fun stuff. So really where I like to play, and I say play because it's really interesting, is something that's going to be unique and dynamic. So we are in some water purification opportunities. We're in some opioid addiction issues. We're looking into some neurosensing capabilities. which are going to be pretty neat. So once we get these across the goal line, I'll come back and,
Yeah.
and share more about it because it's really, really interesting kind of.
Any of that with Opiate and David Reeser?
a little bit?
Yeah, he was the guest of the podcast.
Yeah, no, I know that. Yeah,
David's
yep.
a great dude.
Yeah, no, David's
yeah.
phenomenal. I just saw him. He was outside of Grinders today for coffee when I was in the wine.
I never
sampler.
run into him anymore.
Yeah, no,
he's been too busy.
He's got a lot of hair gel.
Yeah, does he?
He's got a lot of
hair gel, wearing a
work,
leather
a
jacket
lot of
on it.
product, but he
You
looks
said
great.
you talked to him on Grindr?
Right in front of Grinders. Yeah, no,
Different. Those are different.
if he calls out his bike, then that's okay too.
Yeah.
So yeah, opiate's certainly one of them. Nala membranes is another one.
Yeah.
There's a couple really interesting supply chain analysis. So companies that are looking at tracking supply chain. So cotton, for instance, where's your cotton grown? Where does it move to? So there's a whole bunch of issues on confidence that your growers are the right growers.
Yeah.
They treat their employees the right way. So really fundamental kind of growth opportunities there.
That's
for sure.
that's a very consumer driven thing, isn't it? Because people now, I feel like, especially in the millennial generation, more and more, they want to know where their stuff comes from for their consumer goods. Is that
Yeah,
driving?
it's absolutely. So, right, look at folks like Nike, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of their production is overseas. How do they treat their employees in those overseas? Everybody wants their cool Nikes. But if you look back up the supply chain, where do you source the leather from? Where do you source the employees? How do you treat everybody in the, in the actual plants? And things are changing a lot in China for sure.
Yeah. And that's why Brandon can't always get a job, because people want to search back to some of his history. And they're like, I don't know if I can hire this guy.
You got to be careful.
That's why I had to go out on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, when all other ends are dead, you just like, I'm just going to go do my own thing now. Yeah, I'll just go make my own road.
Actually, like, while I was like, I'd gotten accepted to law school and I was getting ready to start, there was a picture. So there was an app called Vine. I don't know if you all
Remember Vine? Yeah, that was the
the
best.
precursor to
Pre-TikTok,
TikTok.
yeah.
And Twitter ended up buying them, and then they closed shop. Well, my profile picture on there, because I was post-military and like just trying to be a college kid at the age of 25. But my profile picture on there was me shirtless with Daisy Dukes, and like I was at
Yes.
a race and just was having a great time. Well, they closed Vine down, and my profile picture was the first picture that popped up when you typed in my name. So I was like, I've got to ask people to hire me for like high stakes litigation. And This
Yes.
is what they're going to look up. So I sent a bunch of emails, and I finally got them to take it down, and it didn't really end up mattering.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah,
We all had to, I think everybody in that early generation of like Facebook, and we all had to go and scrub those profiles hard. Because when I got on Facebook, it was like 2004, you had to have a .edu to be able to, because it was a college only
You had to
app.
have it. You had to be asked.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. You had to be invited and all that stuff. Yeah, there was some years where there were some things that were getting put on the internet that
I wish I
probably
could go
never.
back and see my MySpace
Yeah.
top 8. Who I ranked.
You drive a General Lee too? Is that part of it?
He's from Indiana.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
yeah. Is the Indiana can't be nearly as redneck as Dukes of Hazzard, South Georgia, maybe parts of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're just different.
Yeah, just different. Just different. Bill, give us your background, if you will. Marine Corps veteran,
That's correct.
huge mover and shaker in our Wilmington community. We're blessed to have you here, honestly, dude. And so just give them kind of a summary of your background and how you got here.
Kind of how I got here was small town, a lot of family members, including my dad, Korean War veteran. A lot of my neighbors were World War II veterans. So history lessons for me were, as a young kid, just listening to these guys talk about what actually unfolded and stuff a lot of times you just don't see in regular courses and so forth. And that kind of shaped of kind of where I was thinking about going when I went to college. And so wanted to be a teacher, and part-time jobs you get to support yourself to try to go to college, because my dad kind of took my fund as well. But I met a retired naval officer who was in intel and stuff, and did some work with him, and he's like, you'd be a good intel analyst. And it was right around when all those movies were coming out, Harrison Ford and a lot of other stuff, and I was like, that's kind of cool, but through letter agencies just didn't recruit at my small college. And so there is a way you could still get to that end point, and that was going into the military, going intel field, and so that was my intent. And after I got out of the military, it was like, I really don't want to work up in DC doing this. Just had a young son, and I'm like, I can't stand sitting in a car for 2 hours one way, bumper to bumper and everything else. So applied to UNC Wilmington, got hired back in '96, and kind of the rest is history. And part of the connections and stuff over the years, I think what helps me today is I just been here longer than a lot of the other folks. So I kind of know where the resources and people and the right connections are. And so I always want to try to help people because that resource base wasn't here when I arrived. And so if I can make life a little bit easier, connect somebody a little faster so they don't have the same, issues that I had, hey, that's all gravy. I love it.
So you've been at UNCW for 26 or 27 years, somewhere in there,
I've
is that right?
I had a
Wow.
little broken time. I always thought about going back to the Midwest where I grew up, and my best friend who retired out of the Marines said, hey, send me your resume. He was working for Rock Island Arsenal, which is about 3-4 hours where I grew up. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'd love to go back and work there. Next thing you know, I'm getting interviewed in 2008 from a guy in Iraq. It said, hey, Matt pushed your name onto me. You know databases, you got intel. We've got an immediate need. I need an answer by tomorrow for a 13-month contract. And I'm like, oh, okay. And
quick.
how soon would I be over there? Well, 10 days, and we'll get you over to Iraq. And so I'm like, we all do this. I think, you get out of the service and, some years go by and you're like, do you still have the skill sets? Do I still, I was at that age of like, do I still have it? I think I can still do this? And so I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And so off I went to Iraq for 13 months. And then that was right when the downturn in the economy, 2009, 2010, there wasn't nothing to come back to. And so I ended up working at Cape Fear for a couple of years, which was great. Allowed me to develop some other skill sets with some different agencies and networks here in kind of the Tri-County area. And then I came back to UNCW back in 2012. So happy to make kind of the full circle.
Matt, I've seen it in the couple years that I've known Bill, but you've known him a lot longer than me. Can you kind of summarize what you think his impact has been on the local veteran community here, from your perspective, having known him for what you guys known each other 8-10 years, something like that?
I think integral for sure. I mean, anybody, I think in the business community anything veteran related in the business community, you're a staple for sure. And I think hugely that where the Department of Military Affairs is today at the university, both physically and professionally, is largely because of you, for sure. Yeah.
I appreciate that, but we all know there's no way one person is able to accomplish and get all that done. So I learned how to draw in those that are around you that you want to be around, but also are the movers and shakers, and you learn from them. And so it just kind of blossoms. But it's a huge tribe that we have here locally, and thankful to Signal Fire, thankful to VBC, thankful to Rob and how many others here that are really growing the tribe. And I think that's why this is like the fastest growing area for military veteran populations to come to. So
yeah, the university plays a huge role in that. What do you think it means, Rob, to have like a institute of higher learning that's so dedicated to the veteran community? How does that benefit us here in Wilmington, do you think?
So it's like an ink spot, really. So, Bill was being very humble, but
Yeah, he will do that.
and that's right. But he's foundational to the support, and because UNCW is such an integral part of this thing called Wilmington, Cape Fear, New Hanover County, the tentacles of UNCW are far-reaching. Not only the alumni and those who've kind of finished school who stay here, but the chancellors, right? Their impact to the community and what they're doing inside of the university. 12%, more than 12% of the student population is military affiliated. That's tremendous
huge.
numbers. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
And so it's more than 2,200 or so, roughly. So,
exactly.
Right, generals don't do math.
Yeah.
But it's somewhere around.
Get the aide to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Find us somebody to do something. But the point is, the impact is far-reaching, and it's right. It's continual. Right, it happens every year, over and over and over again. And the more resources that this ecosystem can bring Bill, that means he can provide more resources to those in transition. Because it's active duty folks that are going to school. It's those that have just transitioned. It's those that are a little more seasoned. But everybody needs some help, and that sine wave of life coming through the university as a staple is really amazing because it's confident. The school, its leadership are growing. They have a great strategy, and their impact inside the community is pretty phenomenal.
Is 12% high, like, for the national average? That
very
seems
high.
like a big number.
Very high.
Yeah.
Now, if you remove out the for-profit institutions, American University, some of the other ones that, they cater to a heavy military population, but by and large, any public institution, that's a very high number.
What do you think is the reason for that, outside of all the work that you guys have done to make it an attractive offer for veterans?
As Rob mentioned, it's a combination of things. I mean, first of all, it's in our DNA. So in 47, when we started out, we were a GI Bill school. So most of our first student body were all veterans returning from World War II. So when you start out with that in your system, and then you look at over time until, you know, the draft kind of ended and so forth, that the number of personnel in our country that actually served in the military, you know, was 9-10%, and then it's slowly gotten down to where it's less than 1% now. So when you start out with a base of, you know, 75% of your student body is tied to the military, then their reach and who they're interacting with, it just keeps snowballing and so forth. So that is obviously extremely important. Where are we wedged? We're wedged right next to the two largest military installations in the world, between Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg. And then you throw in Seymour Johnson, you throw in the Coast Guard and Navy elements and so forth, and voila, you know, we're in a prime area for that. You know, and as you mature as an institution, because we're just celebrating our 75th anniversary, we're not just this, you know, flip-flop university anymore right on the coast where you were kind of known as, you know, back in the 60s and early 70s, like, oh yeah, just go there because no, we have world-class programs. We have some of our programs, they're top 5, top 10 in the country for all public institutions in the United States, we're top 100.
Wow.
That says an awful lot. So if you can bring in that, you know, notion of, hey, if you're tied to the military, we got you covered here. But also, what are you thinking about academic-wise? We also have you covered now. And best bang for the buck. I mean, you could spend the same money going somewhere else, and you're not going to get the same resources or support that you're going to get here. So we kind of pride ourselves on that. And, you know, I always tell folks that are thinking about transition, I'm glad to have a talk with you. I'm not going to talk to you as, you know, somebody from UNCW and courting you to come to our institution. I'll let you make that decision after the talk. But I want to give you the right information for you to make the right decision for you and or your family members about higher ed. Because there's a lot of bad information that's passed out, a lot of bad decisions. And the last thing I want is for, you know, that male or female that's, you know, earned those benefits to waste them on something that they've went to a school that's not accredited, and then they try to transfer somewhere else. Oh, guess what? We'll give you 12 credits out of the 60 that you took because what? So now you've lost all that time and effort for what? Because that decision could have been, you know, modified if you just knew the right information.
That was this guy. I was taking classes when I was in Iraq, had no idea what school it was with, and I got to Kennesaw State like, hey, I got like 40 hours, and they're like, well, actually you have 0.
And if you have a disability rating and you qualify, maybe using VR&E benefits before you use your GI Bill benefits, these things, or Rogers STEM Bill, you know, so where if you're going into, you know, a STEM related field, you can get additional benefits and time to complete your degree, because it does take longer to get an engineering degree if you want to be a doctor, whatever it is. But these are things that aren't, you know, put out there for a lot of folks to, I mean, it's out there. It's just people don't know what they don't know. So if I can help them navigate that space, which then in turn makes their next, you know, career path so much easier and helpful, why not?
Yeah.
So,
Matt, I'm not trying to turn this into a public service announcement for UNCW. Their marketing department does a good job of getting people to go to school there, obviously. But some of those things that Bill just talked about, because you went to school there, and you went and got your MBA there. Was UNCW on your short list of schools to go to because of this kind of like ecosystem or community, or two of the words that we've thrown around here earlier, for veterans?
No.
No?
No.
You came here because you wanted to be on the beach.
It got me out of Virginia.
Yep.
It got us in a community we knew. And yes, it got me back to the beach. I could have cared less what school it was. Knowing
what you know now about where we're at today in 2023 with Wilmington and the part that UNCW plays in it, if you were Staff Sergeant Milot again and it was 2008 and you were doing it all over, how much of that would have gone in? Like, would you be thinking about it differently in choosing what school that you would go to? Would all the stuff that he just talked about influence your decision, make you feel more confident about coming to Wilmington and going to school there?
Yeah.
As a transition vet?
I would love to, definitely. But then again, I'm just going to, it was out of convenience.
Yeah.
And I think it would still be somewhat out of convenience because I want to be at a school that I can be in person, physically in person, and that's going to be limited, and I can't uproot my kids and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, your situation's changed dramatically since then.
Yeah, and since college, I've become very anti-college. So.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that because that was kind of the point that I was trying to bring up. Is like I've been verbally... I don't know what the word is, not verbally abusive towards going to school. Like, I know that I went to college and I learned some real things there. And then I got into small business, and then I was like, holy shit! None of the things that I learned in college am I really implementing in small business, but I still see the utility in it. And I know, as passionate as we have been on this show about whether it's franchise ownership or buying an existing business, like there's still value to going through a 4-year university, which kind of pivots me into the thing that we wanted to talk about. And we put a moratorium on pivot for season 1, just as a reminder. We're at season 3 now.
Right.
But it's been used 2 weeks in a row. So if you want to establish a new moratorium on pivot,
Shift.
we'll take a show vote. We'll take a show vote at the
Pushing
end
the
of
clutch.
it. But it's the building of community. And the university in and of itself builds a community. And then if you pull yourself out of the picture frame a little bit, try to go 30,000 feet, there's community building within the veteran business owner space through VBC, and a lot of the other things that are there. And you see all these little pockets of different communities being built that are by veterans and for veterans, I think. And that's something that you two gentlemen have been working on a lot recently with the Cape Fear Veteran Resilience Project. Did I get that right off the
Yes.
professional broadcaster? So Rob, talk a little bit about what that is, why it exists, and what problems does it help to solve?
Absolutely. So, I mean, you hit on most of the topics. So we veterans, all right, our life is a life cycle. There's certain points in time where I need assistance or support or just somebody to talk to about certain things. Right now, most of the public space is about mental health crisis. And absolutely, it is a huge problem we need to address, not the scabs on top, but the root cause. But there's a whole bunch of stuff we could possibly do in this veteran for veteran by ecosystem to move left of that boom, right? Boom being mental health crisis and chaos. So what are the resources out there that we can provide to them? So there's a buy and a sell side. And in many cases, veterans today, especially the younger ones, I can say that because I'm older, don't want to go to the big brother VA or others because they believe it's oversight, or if I talk to somebody, it's going to be a disability rating change. And I just don't like that kind of concept. But on the other side, there's tremendous veteran support organizations that are a 1 or 2 person shop that have great heart, great intent, but they don't have access to the veterans. So this veteran resilience project, starting in Cape Fear, is meant to be an ink spot so we can bring both sides together for an equation, use technology to our advantage. And then we all become sensors, right? So we're a network of networks and sensors. So if I identify somebody that has some type of help, and again, it's not just mental health. Maybe I want to go to school. I now know the academic person to answer some questions. Or if I have a question with the VA, I can bring them into this fold as well. But it's meant to provide an aperture. It's an aperture with confidence and trust. As you mentioned, right, we veterans like to have folks who wear the same T-shirts. So that builds the immediate kind of confidence in whom I'm talking to. And then this is meant to be in Cape Fear, the region, because there's tremendous resources here, but it's hard for the veterans in need to try to find that. And if we can combine that through some technology, then we have an aperture that's pretty interesting, and then we build it over time, right? So good work gets more good work, and this network just continues to grow. And we're seeing that already. So our elected officials are interested in it. The VA is interested in it. The VSOs are interested. Academic institutions, small businesses is interested, because everybody understands the importance of it. This is just trying to bring it together and not allow our big government to get in the way and preclude anybody from having access to what's out there.
Bill, I'll ask you this question, and I want to get Brandon and Matt's thoughts on it too as well. A lot of the problems that this is setting out to solve, it sounds to me like there's a signal issue. Like there's so much that is there for the veteran community, people to rely on, whether it's a 2-person VSO or it's a 20,000-person VSO. We talked about last week, Brandon, like just a litany of benefits or entitlements that we don't even know exist in some cases. Is that what this is hoping to solve? Some of those signal issues?
If you look nationwide, there's over 48,000 agencies, nonprofits, whatever you have, that are trying to deal in this space. Great on them. But we have a ton of those same types of entities right here in the Cape Fear region. The problem is it's still siloed. People don't know what they don't know. And so what we try to or what we're hoping to, our intent on this as well, is to kind of be that clearinghouse. You come to us first in here, and we can redirect immediately to where maybe multiple resources that we know are going to be there to support your ask, your needs, your wants, desires, or maybe you find out that that's not just for me. Well, do you have something for my family members? Sure, here, you need to talk to here. And so this whole opportunity is, we're not here to replace any of these other organizations. We're not here to point fingers or anything else. We're here to bring them on all as collaborators, because at the end of the day, we want to impact that veteran and that family so we keep them in a safe, secure, moving forward, being functional, and not thinking about, hey, I'm already down the rabbit hole, it's too late. So this whole opportunity is, and it's not just reserved for those men and women that are just getting out right now or the last few years. This is still stemming from folks from Vietnam era that are still, hanging on with still a lot of these other challenges that have not been addressed or they've just kind of given up on. So we've got the full gamut here. And that's what we're hoping to implement out here, is that, hey, let's bring everyone together on this opportunity. Let's use a little bit of technology to enhance, because we all know the younger service members are tied to that technology. So if we have an AI, version of a chatbot that's there to answer, 90% of the questions somebody has about where resources or this or that are at in a non-invasive way, why not use something like that?
Yeah. If we're going to ask anybody about technology, it's got to be Brandon. He's the only one with 500,000 followers on TikTok.
Well, China just has all my information.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. We think that there's a Brandon Pettyjohn Esquire hologram out there that's been, or maybe it's a robot. It's just been completely generated from how good he is on social media.
I hope so.
Out there litigating
As long as I
cases
get
and
paid a little bit. We're
Yeah.
good.
For your likeness, name, image,
that's
likeness.
Right, that's right.
What do you think, man? Like we've had a lot of conversations about, and Bill, you brought up the point. There's a lot of freaking VSOs, and we overlap each other and we step on each other's toes. And a lot of people serve a similar mission. Some are, and I look at kind of all 48,000 of those. Maybe this is crude, but I only do sergeant's math, so it's done with a crayon. Far less sophisticated than general's math. But let's say they're all broken into thirds. There's a third of them who have aged past their usefulness. Maybe that's the most elegant way that I can say it. There's a third of them who have hit their sort of stride, and they're making a societal impact. It's their moment. It's their time. And then there's a third of projects that are in upstart, or that are really making meaningful community level impact, maybe not necessarily at scale. Am I off base with that, Brandon? Do you see it like that too? Like where do you see this as like solving some of the issues that we've talked about with VSOs? And
Yeah, I mean, so like obviously being in the legal industry, and I do some criminal stuff. I've been involved with veterans treatment courts since 2016, and so I see the extreme end of veterans not having resources or access to resources. And so when we have them in veterans court, so I'm the attorney, the defense attorney for the one here in New Hanover County, and so they're at the bottom. They've hit rock bottom, and we're trying to point them to resources there. This is a utility that you can use. You don't have to be at rock bottom, and so I think that there is a lot of duplication of a lot of the resources that are out there for veterans. They duplicate a lot of services or resources, but none of them I don't think have a concise kind of database or triage point like what y'all are trying to do, and that's how I kind of approach my own business as well. I don't know every legal problem, but if you come talk to me about it, I can send you out to the right place. And same thing with, you guys might not know everything, and you could say, we don't have a resource for that, but wait, we'll do some research and see where we can send you. So I think there's a lot of veteran service organizations out there, and everyone's I don't want to say everyone, most of them are trying to do good work. They're not trying to make money, and not trying to obviously you got to keep the lights on and do all those sorts of things, but a lot of services out there maybe aren't as comprehensive as they could be, and it sounds like what y'all are working on is something that's needed for sure.
so I have a practical how-to question that Matt I don't mean to put your business out there, but can I use you as an example for my question? Because Matt's trying to get his disability rating up, which is long overdue for Matt. You went 8 years without one at all?
Yeah, about that. Yeah,
almost a decade at a 0% rating. So Matt's doing the hard work of getting that done. Why is that such a pain in the ass? Why is there so much freaking red tape and bureaucracy? And would this help somebody like Matt navigate that system a little faster, get him through that process so he can live his life with the benefit. It's not even a benefit. Disability is not a benefit to me. It's something we live with. But does that kind of cover at a very small scale what some of these issues is going to help solve?
Yeah, most definitely. And Matt, see me after this session here. I definitely help you with that.
I did that for you, Matt.
Thank you, Bill.
Right, folks. That's what they live for, and they have great success.
So the point, the word triage is spot on. So all of us have transitioned at some point, off of active duty into something else. In the reserve and guardsmen, we do it over and over and over again. So that transition point happens multiple times. The way we transition folks from the active duty is horrible. I'll just be frank, right? We are not current in the way small town Main Street or Wall Street looks at opportunities. We don't write resumes the right way. We don't think about what transition occurs. And often we do some good things, like SkillBridge is a great opportunity to put somebody for 6 months into a business, small or large. But other than that, it's a very transactional kind of effort, and it's a reciprocal relationship. Both the transitioning serviceman who doesn't know what it's like back on small town Main Street, and the organization called the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, whomever, doesn't understand what it's like on small town Main Street. So you get this point where there's a gap. The military tries hard, but it just doesn't do it. And so disability ratings should be part of, and they try to do it now, but it's not just here, fill out these forms, right? That's a very transactional effort. What we're looking at is a partnership, right? A partnership for life. And because it's with a trusted agency and it's more local, there are people that have the ability to do these certain things here in the Cape Fear region. Matt just doesn't know who they are.
Right.
So that's the sensor. Now we just found a sensor. The sensor now will get inside of the VRP ecosystem and start to identify and pull those strings. That's a classic example of what we would do.
So you would have essentially just like a directory of people that you would say, oh, Matt has this problem. So you're the top of the funnel. Matt Mylott and his family are dealing with this issue. We have 4 or 5 VA claims agents within Wilmington, North Carolina. Here's the 5 to start talking to help you resolve this issue a little bit faster. That would be an example of a...
Exactly.
Okay. Or and then we could just go down the list of needs that the veteran community has and start knocking them off one by one. And I'm assuming this thing will grow significantly over time, right? You can't just identify all of them with the stroke of a pen.
Absolutely. So we're doing a couple of things. We're doing a gap classic military gap analysis, see who's who in the zoo around here, which is great, but things will move over time. And the other piece is to remove the stigma. Because even in industry now, unless you have somebody who's from a military or veteran background, there's still the concern about, I don't want to hire a veteran because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to put a black coat on and shoot people in the cafeteria. So we've got to go to industry as well to help them remove that stigma. And so we're doing that outreach at will to help small and large organizations understand all the positive value of hiring a veteran. We all have some scars.
Yeah.
Literally, physically, and mentally, and so if the buy and sell side of that are not fully aware, misconceptions, misunderstandings, and lack of expectations are going to be set, and then the veteran's unhappy because they went into a place that they didn't really understand. The business gets upset because they didn't understand what they were getting from the veteran, or the veteran then was underutilized or underemployed, gets frustrated, then leaves, and now he's back in a how do I take care of my family kind of environment. So if we can remove some of that uncertainty through the relationships, then I think we have a much better success to be successful.
So Rob, you know this well now after your first iteration with the Honor Foundation as a coach and mentor. It would be wonderful for the rest of the non-special forces, community could have the same type of access of what those individuals are getting in THF. Highly successful. They're integrating with C-suite. And so now they're having a full understanding of the capabilities of anyone that's served, what they bring to the table. And it's so rich. It's so, it's there. The plan's developed. It's just, I wish it were implemented on, general level,
forces level,
all the way down. And I think a lot of these issues that, we're all trying to solve and partner and collaborate and help individuals out would be not completely removed, but certainly would be reduced immensely if something like that was implemented across the board.
It's because it's very hard to put on a black coat and go do awful things to people if you have a pretty good life. It's nobody's like, man, I'm having a great day. I'm just gonna go shoot up a place. And that off-road for military and how you get picked up and where you land, whether it's working for yourself or working somewhere like, the THF is such a great example because I can think of so many people, either people that I know or people that I know of, that really found exactly what they were supposed to be doing after going through that program. And who knows what the dark side of that moon looks like, essentially. If like it doesn't go that way, what does that person become? So the more that we can grab people at that transition point, kind of tired of using that word, but that's what it is, and feed them with the resources necessary to not get a hand out, maybe a step up, just by connecting them with the people who really can and will help. I mean, that could be huge. Sure. And to keep it on a local level, I think is really smart. And it's ambitious even at a local level.
Oh, so ambition is a great word.
Yeah.
There's lots of hurdles to get over, but the answer is we'll do it. I mean, we are not going to let anything or anybody or any organization stop us because we know what the need is. Now we just got to figure out the right components to put it all together. But there are certainly gaps. And our idea was the ink spot, which is let's create something that works in Cape Fear, and then you can unplug it with the concept, with a structure, and then put it into Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, or up in Wake and Raleigh. And then the governors like to share with other governors what they're doing. This may be an opportunity for our governor to get together with some other ones and say, hey, look, here's some ways to kind of think about this. Mm-hmm. And that's where it becomes viral and starts to move pretty quickly. Because then somebody says, I'm moving from Virginia to North Carolina. What's that organization down there? And I can say, okay, now I can plug in because it's the same type of folks wearing the same types of T-shirts, just a different. And now I know where I can go to get my more localized kind of support from. And I think that's where it gets exciting.
Matt, it sounds kind of like a signal fire, in a way.
Definitely.
It's a little bit signal fire.
A little bit. It's all right.
No, it's a lot-ish, actually. No, it really is.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, it's an extension. It's outreach. It's connecting. Comes through a triage kind of component.
Yep.
But the bottom, like, everybody's the sensor. So where we are, where we're out in community, who we're talking to, whether it's Chase and the Veteran Business Collective or conversations like this, it's just sensing where the need is and then being able to put people into an aperture where then they self-select or we can help them get to the right points.
And we'll have an opportunity coming up in a couple months to really share this out broadly to the entire community.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's your ask right now? What do you guys? Where are you at? Like, and what is needed?
So we're doing a 17 May listening session. So we are inviting. It's going to be down at the Harrelson Center. It's from 4 to 7 p.m. We're now just getting a list together, but we're going to invite all of our elected officials, some industry, the churches who have a great faith-based opportunity to be sensors and to provide support. The VSOs that we know in town, mm-hmm. Everybody that's in this ecosystem, we're going to bring them together, introduce kind of what we're doing, but then stop talking after about 2 minutes of intro and then listen to where the gaps are and what the needs are, because this VRP can become a portion of advocacy, which I mean to say is if there's something that you need some more support from, or there's a gap, like there's a vet center here, but it's only one day at Cape Fear Community College.
Yeah.
Versus a 7-day, almost a full-time vet center that's up in the Jacksonville.
And
they leave early. So, but that's a space between the VA and a more comfortable spot. If that's what this place needs, then we can help package that, communicate it to whomever it is, the VA and their elected officials, because now we're connecting those tissues together to solve a problem, not just talk about it. Identify a need, and then look, let's get an action plan together to kind of solve it.
And they also serve the family members as well, because if that service member is having a lot of very challenging issues, it's
never isolated just
exactly.
to the sufferer. Like, everybody around them suffers, whether it's family, business associates, friends. Like, we all hurt.
The knock-on effects are pretty dramatic.
Yeah. So then the mission right now is Fight Club. Everybody tell 2 people about this listening session on May 17th. Is that right?
That's it. And let us know. And we'll put you on our formal invite list because we need to know who's who in the zoo. And then that becomes part of our ecosystem.
So you're looking for spiritual leaders, business leaders, vet service organization leaders, anybody else that we need to put the call out to?
All of our elected officials.
Yeah. Elected officials.
We've talked to a number of them. They are interested in supporting this. That New Hanover County has veteran support. Mm-hmm. personnel. So everybody that's in that system is what we want.
Can you help us understand how the sausage is made? Because over the last couple of weeks, I've been a little bit salty about politics as of late, and I don't want to put us into a political conversation, but with current legislation, things that have been going on the last 12 to 18 months, I really kind of feel like our political class is really cool with saying, we support veterans, we want to help you, and they use that at times to score their own political points, and then after that battle has been won, then we kind of get relegated back to the sidelines until we're useful again.
I'm shocked at what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't believe that anybody is coming for us except for us. I'm kind of become more and more cynical in that regard the more that I do this and put myself out there in it. How can we, as 5 individuals who share a similar belief and passion for our community and our community's families, help to influence and change that for the better in the future when we go out? Because I think we put ourselves out there a lot,
and
it gets railroaded
Republican.
sometimes.
That's all you got
That's
to
not
do.
the answer,
No,
dude. It's
so
not the answer.
I think the real way to accomplish part of this is something, my father instilled in me, who, had a ninth grade education, is like, look, if you want to affect change, don't think about on the national level. Where everything that you want to affect change is on a local level. So interact with your local community as much as possible, because that's where you live, you eat, you breathe. That's who your friends, neighbors, all these folks are at, and start there. And once you're successful there, and then the natural thing is bring in the state leaders and then bring in the federal leaders. But if you really want to affect change, start locally. And that's what we're looking at here, is really developing this template that fits this Cape Fear area here. Now you can take this and implement it in your own community once we get this up and running, highly successful, but modify it to fit your community. Because who best knows where the resources, the people, and people that are going to be those change agents is those that are in your local community, correct?
And at what point did we start running our own people, Bill?
Well,
So
it's a big risk.
So you're right. So I mentioned earlier that the VRP is going to succeed despite our kind of structure, political structure. So, our politicians have a tough job.
Yeah.
Our businesses have a tough job. And a lot of people use comments to get a short-term win, either a vote or some type of support from the DOD saying, I'm going to hire veterans. When you peel that back a little bit, the actual measures and metrics behind that are not as indicative of, okay, I hired a bunch of, we'll say it, we get a public splash, but then it doesn't really happen. So despite all of that, the only people that can really support it is this ecosystem. So finding the businesses that understand this or need more information, finding those veteran-owned businesses that want to hire, and we want to hire the folks that we can trust, and then bringing the elected officials in, because it has to be part, they're a part of our community as well, and we want them to be either an advocate or supporter, whatever adjective or adverb you want to use. They've got to be part of this as well, because at some point, this can only be grassroots for so long. It's really got to get the support of the community.
Yeah.
And our elected officials are right. We put them in place. So if we don't pick the right people that aren't doing that following through with their statements, then we got to pick different people.
Yeah.
It's a little bit longer term, but the bottom line is we know there's a need, and we, as folks who wear similar T-shirts, are now engaged to do it ourselves and drag everybody with us to the finish line.
We're making up a bigger and bigger block in local. I think in New Hanover, Onslow, Pender, Brunswick County. Like, we're making up a bit of a bigger block, and I'm not a very patient person, so. When I don't see it happening like immediately, I'm like, well, this is kind of crappy, like, we're right here, guys. Like, we're asking, we're asking, and we're also like helping ourselves. We're not just like looking for a handout from anybody. So maybe it's those two things in concert. It's like building the relationships, but then being patient and knowing that you're in this for the long haul. It's not just going to change tomorrow.
So patience is another great word, but you still have immediate needs. And so, right, as we're forming and growing this project, we've already, saved a couple people, we'll say. We've either moved them into the right areas or actually saved somebody who was in chaos or crisis. So that's a win. Now we're going to, this will be like a wave. It'll build momentum over time. But we can't wait for 2, 4, or 6 year kind of election cycles. We've got to be able to produce now. And then once we have wins and we can talk about those, that's what we want to double down on where things are working. If it's not working, we're resilient enough as an organization to pivot and try something else. But the bottom line is, especially in this community, there's a ton of folks that need help of some type, myself included. And then I want to be able to turn around and provide that as a mentor, as a resource, as a support to other folks that are in there. I mean, you want to open a small business here, I can kind of talk you through that.
Yeah.
If you want to work in kind of the Army Reserve or Guard as a dual citizen, then we can kind of talk about that as well. And by the way, I know a guy at UNCW, right? It's that network of networks that really becomes powerful.
Yeah, Bill just gets you to the front of the line, right? You just get right in on your word. You just sign the application and somebody's in.
Yeah, no, there's a little more to it than
You gotta
that.
have
but yeah,
that kind of pull, man. 27 years. Tell me, when have you seen Bill? A moment you've seen Bill throw his weight around there at UNCW? Had to be once.
You don't want to put that on blast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, then it no longer becomes special anymore when he does it, right?
I mean, the opening of the Veteran Hall.
That was a great.
That was
we
a
haven't
huge
talked about
win.
that publicly. You did a great
Well,
job with that.
But again, it was so many people coming together, and just the beauty of seeing so many military and veterans organizations and representatives of those organizations, and the mere fact that there were 6 World War II veterans there in attendance that we were honoring. And, you know, we get to lay claim to this fact that Veterans Hall, that's the only building on a college or university campus in the entire country named Veterans Hall.
Really?
Only one. So, you know, they're named after a lot of, you know, prominent either Medal of Honor recipients or Silver Star or generals or whatever the case may be, but those are individual names. This denotes everyone that has served, past, present, and our future ones that are going to be coming to that institution.
If only we could talk about very relevant and topical name changes in the military, you know, to coincide with that. But we'll leave that one completely alone. We'll do that next week, Brandon.
You're skirting far too on the political line.
I know, right? I know. I'm gonna reel myself back. I don't know. I'm all geared up the last couple of days for some reason. I don't know why. Probably the Senate bill SB3, the medical cannabis one, cleared the Senate again today, and it's like, I'm not interested. I don't care. Don't call me and ask me for help. But then at the same time too, I'm like, you know, I'll sneak away and I'll be like, what's going on? Somebody tell me what's happening up there in Raleigh. But yeah, I don't know. It's got me all worked up, man.
I like it.
Yeah.
You're passionate.
Yeah. Or dumb. One or the other.
I think it's passion.
I'm working on some stuff, man. I got a new face. I don't have a beard anymore. You know, I'm like
Trying to find your new self.
trying to find my new self. Yeah, exactly. Bill, Rob, we appreciate you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
Anything else that you're asking the community for outside of May 17 listening session at, where'd you say it was going to be?
the Harrelson Center.
Harrelson Center.
One last thing that I'd like to, because you guys have such a broad reach, and because we've had so many people relocate to this area in the last 4 years, so along with Sheriff Ed McMahon, Chuck McLiverty, and I were all co-chairs of the Kafer Purple Heart Dinner. We've not had a Purple Heart Dinner since 2019 because of COVID. This is an opportunity for the community to come together and honor any Purple Heart recipient and their family members. And we have World War II guys that are still around being honored all the way up through our current, campaigns. And so anyone that's a Purple Heart recipient, please come forward. We would love to have you invited. It's not going to cost you anything to come to this dinner. And it really is a truly a community-led event that comes in and honors those folks and their family members.
Is that a good time? Is that a good dinner?
It's an amazing dinner. About 550 people at the convention center. So for a sit-down plated dinner, you can't ask for a better evening to be around your tribe and watching, these recipients. And the beauty of this event, which will be August 5th, which is a Saturday, is before the actual event takes place, all the recipients, just the recipients themselves, are put in a special room so they actually get to talk amongst each other. And really, it's an opening session. I've watched where, last event we had, Major General Livingston, who's a Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam and probably the most decorated Marine since Chesty Puller. He was our guest of honor. And by the way, he has 3 Purple Hearts himself. And so when he walked in that room and you watch a World War II veteran, Korea, Vietnam, and all the way up through our OEF, OIF guys immediately jump to attention because they see that CMH draped. And then it was like, hey, we're all the same here, gentlemen. We're all recipients, and let's talk. And to watch that unfold and to see some, younger guys that are still close to that rabbit hole because they just don't know how to process what happened to them or their buddies. And then to watch these older guys come in and talk to them, it's like, look, here's how we navigate this. Here's my card. Here's my number. Call me anytime. World of difference.
Yeah.
So Our last one in 2019, Norman DeYoung, who since passed away this past year, he was 101, 2 Purple Hearts. He had his first at, Omaha. He was, our special honoree that night as well. But, it's an amazing evening. It's all volunteers to put this on, and another great opportunity for your community to come together to support.
Well, whatever you need us for. You want us to get video, you want us to live stream, you want Matt and I to wait tables. Like, I'll wait a table. I like waiting tables.
Well, you just brought up something, and at our last event, the convention center staff does a wonderful job, and one of their staff members who was actually taking, the plates to each of the tables, approached us and said, I'm actually a Purple Heart recipient. She was one of the first
Put the plate down, have a seat.
Navy females who in that capacity, and we're like, are you serious? And she goes, yeah, I have the scars right here. We turned around, we put her in the line, and as she was being recognized, John Evans was the MC that night, and he's like, ladies and gentlemen, you also might recognize this individual. She's also serving your food tonight. All the entire staff there had no idea their fellow coworker was a recipient. I mean, tears, I was going all over the place, but what just a special way to honor our men and women who have served, and obviously as a recipient as well. So
yeah, what a great human moment I'm sure that was for everybody that
most
was in the
definitely.
room. So sponsors, you need sponsors for
always
it? You need people to buy
looking for
plates?
sponsors. Tickets this year will be a little bit more. Obviously, inflation has come in since 4 years, but where else are you gonna get a sit-down plated dinner, dessert, the whole 9 yards for $50 when this is going to support paying for all of this?
$50 a head? That's all it is?
That's all it is.
Oh man, that's well worth it. What's on the menu? Have you already picked?
I've not selected that menu. I don't have that option. I believe that our planning committee there, but convention center staff does a phenomenal job to get 550 plates up all at one time, desserts, the whole 9 yards, and it's good to have the local JROTC programs involved because they're the ones that are escorting these recipients and family members to their table. And one of the things we do is we make sure that there's one recipient at every table, so everyone attending the event has an opportunity to interact with a Purple Heart recipient and or their families. And
very cool.
To see some of these World War II guys that they're just strutting up there like it's yesterday, and just feel so proud, and the young guys just looking at them, just questions galore, if as you would imagine, and makes for a great evening. So
just had an interesting thought. It's real easy for us to feel like we get forgotten about, but imagine what it's like for those people that are, World War II, Korea, even the elder Vietnam era veterans, to really, like, once their friends and family start passing away, like, this is why community exists, would be to pull those people and go, no, we see you, we recognize your contributions, we thank you, we love you, we appreciate you. That's a great way to do it.
Well, and Rob, if you want that as a future episode, I can get you 3 or 4 World War II veterans that are completely all together there. Will shock you at their ability to recall information just like that, and they've got stories unbelievable.
Matt, you'd be able to talk, because you were there at that time, right? You old salt. You'd let them know what it was like on Okinawa for real.
Pearl Harbor is where I started, so
that would be fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Brandon, I think you got to share the heart for like history and legacy. Like, if we're not hearing those stories right now, we're not capturing those stories, they're going to be lost permanently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
So,
let's have someone on.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
that'd be cool. So we'll talk offline about that.
Most definitely.
All right, Brandon, any parting thoughts?
I would, based on our conversation, I think that, what I would say is that get involved with your local veterans organizations, get involved with your local community, because my perspective, you can't, there's very few people you can trust, and I feel like these, we're kind of building our tribe here. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the government's ability to help me out in a lot of instances. So I'm less keen to say, hey, we really need to get these people involved. It's probably important, but the grassroots level, your neighbors, your friends are going to be the ones that help you out. And so, even people online, there's, the world is at our fingertips. So if you ever feel like you're in a spot where you don't know what to do, you're feeling, like the walls are getting closer. There's so much out there resource-wise, and you don't need to feel alone. Even if if you reach out to the VA and they're not able to immediately help you, go to the local college campus, go to, local veteran service officer. There's one in every county. There's options out there. And so this is a good thing that you guys are doing. I'm really excited for you, excited for our community that something like that's going to be here. Because a lot of times guys and gals feel like that they don't have any resources. And so it's cool that you guys are going to offer, not that you're offering anything new, but you're offering, a solution to the overwhelming, nature of how many organizations are out there.
Cool. Matt, any parting thoughts?
I agree with everything Brandon just said, but
That's a professional communicator right there, what he just did.
Yeah.
That's somebody who has to stand in front of a group of people in a high-pressure room and deliver a message.
Well, and candidly, it's somebody that's been in that position before too, and it's important to me that, I think, success outside of the military, what makes it different is your support system. I've dealt with so many veterans that have been arrested or something like that. And, getting into their story, they came back to their hometown and they didn't have anybody. They lost their family when they left the military, your brothers and you think just like hanging out and BSing in the barracks is, not formative, but it is. And you lose that. And it can send you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And so I've seen it from both sides, and I think it's an important thing.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. All right, Matt, any parting thoughts?
No, I was just going to say thank you, gentlemen, very much. I'm grateful to have you guys as leaders in our community and as part of our veteran brotherhood, too. So,
And thanks for telling the stories about Matt that you do when the cameras aren't on. There's important ones that have happened over the years that we need for the archive, for the verbal history
Now,
of Matt Mylott in our community.
I don't want to go an episode. We started a new segment. I don't want to go an episode.
No,
without
I know.
it.
Do you have it? We did say we were going to send it at random.
All right,
Matt's millennial.
Can you do me a favor? So we have this new, and I'm very passionate about this.
I am too.
Well, about what you just said.
Okay.
Mislabeling generations.
Yes.
I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
You're a millennial.
I'm millennial.
You're a millennial. If you don't, maybe
Technically.
you're Gen X.
He's 82.
82. Yeah, you're right
No, no.
there.
Oh, you're 80.
hi, Rob. I'm Matt Mylott. I was born in November of 1980. So
November
I
11,
so you might not be.
1776.
But-
yeah, to be exact.
The lazy kids are Gen Z, not
Yeah.
millennials. And so we always get the bad rap. Millennials fought the wars in
Yep.
Afghanistan and Iraq. We fought through the recession.
3 economic crises
Three
that
economic
millennials
crises.
have lived through.
So you old shits out there, quit calling everyone younger than you a millennial. That's
Get
not
off
the
my
case.
lawn.
So Gen Z. So we have a Gen Z, all this new stuff that kids are saying. You probably hear a lot of it around the college campus. Matt is going to give us the translation. So last week it was out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
This week I just want you to translate finna, Finna.
Is it like saying, finally?
I'll use it in a sentence.
Okay.
I'm finna grab a beer after this.
Getting ready to.
I like it. See?
Yeah.
It's a softball. You got it.
Yeah,
I
you
love it.
could have asked him
Fix 'em
country of origin, right? We could have done the full spelling bee.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
One more more prepared. We'll do
Yeah.
that.
All right. Good job, Matt. You're 2 for 2 on Gen Z phrases. Because I'm with you. I'm sick and tired of present company not included. are the generations up, especially those Gen Xers, man. I tell you what.
Yeah,
they come down hard on us.
millennials get shit on a lot, and you know what? We're the ones that were humping packs in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's right.
Not these Gen Zers.
Taking orders from these two.
That's right.
But I'm gonna cut this episode off before you punch me in the face, Rob.
No punching.
Ladies and gentlemen, look up into the Cape Fear Veteran Resilience Project. There's a Facebook page for it now, right?
Correct.
Okay, so go to Facebook. We'll throw it on the screen somewhere, in the caption somewhere. Cape Fear Veteran Resilience Project. Check that out. Listening session on May 17th from 4 to 7 p.m. Your directive is to go full flight club, grab 2 people, bring them with you, and share exactly everything that we talk about on this show. Like, what is out there for us, and what are the problems that we're still dealing with? Because none of these problems, none of these challenges are new. That's the thing, is like there's something for just about everything. None of us are in coming up with the next new real brilliant creative idea. It's all kind of repurposed and repackaged. We just need to know where everything is at and who do we talk to solve that one individual problem. So go check them out. And until next time, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Signal Fire Radio. Until we talk to you next week, go out, feed your mind, strengthen your body, enrich your spirit, and grow your tribe, and go be a signal fire in your community. We will talk to you next week.